top Burundian official says the nation is withdrawing from the International Criminal Court. We'll explain. The European Union launches a new border and coast guard agency to better secure its borders against migrants and refugees. And if you want to get fit, CrossFit, one of the biggest fitness trends, is trending. Africa 54 starts right now. Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Burundi is pulling out of the International Criminal Court. A deputy to Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza says the East African nation plans to withdraw from the ICC 6 months after the court indicated it would investigate the violence which killed hundreds of people. Burundi plunged into a political crisis in April 2015 when President Nkurunziza announced his intention to seek a third term in office. He later went on to win an election boycotted by opposition parties. The Hague-based International Criminal Court prosecutor Fatou Bensouda said in April the court would investigate incidents of violence that have killed at least 450 people and forced hundreds of thousands to flee abroad. Now, for more insight on the situation in Burundi, journalist Moses Avierimana joins me by phone from Bujumbura. Good evening, Moses.
Good evening, Makori.
Yeah, so first, there was to be a meeting by the cabinet and also the move ahead with a parliamentary discussion on this. What is the state of the status of things right now?
Well, actually, we are still waiting for the official announcement. But what we understand that is the cabinet meeting. Actually, they proposed to move the question to the parliament, where they will move it forward to start a process of Burundi to withdraw from the ICC. We understand this is not the first time. The comments from the vice president. We recently, in June, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Alain Nyamitwe, said that if the International Criminal Court doesn't respect the country's sovereignty, and they will obviously pull out, and if they don't respect the rule of complementarity, where a country is supposed to investigate, and the national court has the jurisdiction to investigate the crimes committed in the country.
Yes, but the court here said that they want to investigate and find out who killed, who committed which crimes. Why is the government uncomfortable with that? Because the government itself has accused actually the opposition of killing government officials.
Exactly. This was one of the major questions the opposition are raising here, because the government have previously, they have targeted killings which have been ongoing in the country, where top government officials have been killed. And also, last year, also some of the opposition leaders have been involved in targeted killed. So and some opposition members say, why should the government actually reject this? And the government is saying, according to the report, the investigation report, which was released last week from the independent United Nations Human Rights Investigation, which said that the ruling party they were systematically killing the opposition members. So they say that the reports are biased, and actually this come in midway the Human Rights Council set up a commission inquiry. So they say that possibly this could be biased report, and they say the country itself is able to investigate that. There are national commissions which can do that.
Now, very quickly, what does this mean if they pull out of the ICC?
Well, does this mean actually, there is lack of credibility with these national commissions, because the opposition say that this national commission, which was set to investigate the crimes which are committed since last year, are set by the government itself. So the opposition are afraid that there will be impunity. They are the perpetrators who committed crimes against humanity. On what they said, one of the opposition leaders, Laurence Ngendakumana, whom I talked to a few hours ago, Yeah,
Moses, thank you very much. That's Moses Avierimana reporting from Bujumbura in Burundi. Now, unrest in Ethiopia this week has damaged almost a dozen mostly foreign-owned factories and flower farms and destroyed scores of vehicles. A U.S. researcher was killed on Tuesday when her car was attacked by stone throwers near Addis Ababa. The violence has cast a shadow over a nation where state-led industrial drive has created one of Africa's fastest-growing economies. where the government has also faced rising international criticism and popular opposition to its authoritarian approach to development. The flare-up followed the death of at least 55 people in a stampede on Sunday when police fired tear gas and shot into the air to disperse demonstrators in the Oromia region. Well, the demonstration added economic casualties to a rising death toll in a wave of violence over land grabs and riots. The journalist Paul Shem joins us now on the phone with the latest developments from Addis Ababa. Hello, Paul.
Hi, how are you doing?
Fine. Now, tell us first, we know that there has been a lot of instability in that region. Just explain to us how things look like today.
Well, for the last year, there's actually been a degree of protest, mostly peaceful, across the Oromia region, which is a vast region surrounding the capital. It actually makes up about a third of the country. But recently, what we've had since the stampede and the tragic death of all the people on Sunday, is that there's been attacks around the capital where a lot of the new industry is focused. The announcement by the Fana ABC radio station was that 11 factories in the Sabeta town, which is just north of Addis, 11 factories were attacked, 60 vehicles were burned, and there have been a number of some of the flower farms that have been attacked. A lot of this is taking place in the outskirts of Addis Ababa, which is the Oromo region. There have also been reports of stuff farther afield, but right now it appears that there's a lot of focus on the recent industrial development which is occurring in the outskirts.
Yes.
And it's worth mentioning that a lot of these factories were built on land that was essentially confiscated from the farmers. In many cases, the compensation wasn't deemed enough, and so in some cases, it is the people who used to own this land that are doing the attacking.
Now, from what you're hearing, what might be the implications of these distractions?
Well, this is going to really put a check on Ethiopia's industrialization drive, because it's not just a state-run industrialization. It also relies on a great deal of foreign investment, and most of these factories that have been attacked are foreign-owned. There was a Turkish textile factory, there was a Nigerian cement factory, there have been Dutch flower farms, and Ethiopia has been receiving foreign investment because it has a reputation of being one of the most stable countries in East Africa. And if it starts to lose its reputation, that investment is going to disappear. The government can't do all of the investment on their own, and they're relying on foreign companies to come in. But if this unrest continues, and I believe it's probably the aim of some of the protesters to undermine the economy as a way of getting at the government, because people are very angry at a government they see that is completely unresponsive to their desires, especially the Oromo people.
Now, quickly, Paul, are there any overtures from the government to kind of try get some peace, some kind of settlement with this community?
The government has said that they understand the problem has to do with bad local administration. They say they're going to carry out dialogue with these people, but they've been saying that for the last year, and nothing has really happened yet. And it could be there's a case that they haven't found the right people to talk to. But so far, the government has appeared remarkably tone-deaf to the continued demands and dissatisfaction of the Oromo people in Ethiopia.
Paul, thank you very much. Now that Paul Shem, who is a journalist reporting from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. The European Union has a new Coast Guard agency tasked with securing the bloc's external frontiers following the influx of millions of migrants and refugees in recent years. But critics say Europe should admit its fair share of refugees, as an unprecedented number of people around the globe are displaced from their homes. Henry Ridgewell reports.
The hardware and manpower behind Europe's latest effort to tackle its migrant crisis. At the Kapitan Andreevo border checkpoint on Bulgaria's border with Turkey, the bloc's Commissioner for Migration Thursday hailed the new border force as an unprecedented achievement of the Union.
Thanks to our common work and commitment, the European Border and Coast Guard has now become a reality. In less than 9 months since the European Commission proposed it. The European citizens have demanded, and they rightly do so, a tangible European response. And today, we deliver it collectively.
Permanent staff at the agency, previously known as Frontex, will be more than doubled, and a reserve pool of 1,500 border guards will be on standby for rapid deployment. European leaders hope a more secure external border will relieve the pressure on the internal passport-free Schengen zone, which, in principle, allows EU citizens to travel freely across borders in 26 countries. Several states have reimposed border controls in recent months to try to stem the flow of migrants. Critics say Europe is shirking its responsibilities.
Still, those top countries who earn the most, who have the highest GDP in the world, host only a very small percentage, less than 10% of the world's refugees. That needs to shift, and no border guard is going to make that happen. That's going to require political will and some durable solutions.
Over 300,000 migrants have arrived in Europe so far in 2016. Flows from Turkey have decreased since the EU struck a deal with Ankara in March to return all irregular migrants.
They're leaving it up to Turkey to host millions of refugees. They're leaving it up to the very borders of Europe, so mostly Greece and also Italy now, to host refugees. And it means that people are stuck in the most horrendous conditions.
EU officials insist the border agency will respect fundamental human and refugee rights, but they say the bloc must regain control of its external frontiers to avert another crisis. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, in today's business report, let's see how the markets responded to latest jobs data, the flash crash in the pound and institutional investments in Africa. Africa 54's business correspondent Jill Malandrino reporting from the NASDAQ in New York. How's the details?
Good afternoon. I'm Jill Malandrino from the NASDAQ market site. U.S. stocks opened sort of flat this morning, just up about 0.3%. This was following the all-important jobs report, which came in at 156,000 jobs versus consensus of 169,000. So a little bit of a disappointment in the headline number. All of this was overshadowed by the stunning move in the British pound around 8 p.m. last night, Eastern time, as it plunged as much as 6.1% in early Asian trading. This was the biggest decline since the one day after UK's Brexit referendum result was announced to a fresh 31-year low. Now, traders speculated the flash crash may have been sparked by a human error or what's called a fat finger in the trading world. On top of this, algorithms were adding to selling pressure at a time of the day when liquidity is relatively low. So that's why the moves were really exaggerated in the pound last night. Now, the overriding theme this week when we turn to business news on the continent was institutional investment. On Wednesday, we reported that Standard Bank is trying to position itself as the go-to brand for commercial banking in West Africa. While challenges like inflation, fiscal deficits, rising exchange rates and depreciation, as well as volatilities and uncertainties as a result of rising public debts still exist, efforts to reverse that are slowly being made. Looking to the future and what's working now, drivers of growth include agriculture and agro-processing, infrastructure development to support the rising growth, as well as oil and gas and mineral resources in general. Now, as always, the key to this is implementing stronger fiscal policies, transparency, and improved governance to keep the foreign direct investment flows coming in. Now, just out this morning, according to a new forecast from Jones Lang LaSalle, the prospects for sub-Saharan Africa's hotel industry remain positive, with a demand growth rate of 3 to 5% in the next 3 years. Quartz is reporting this. The ongoing spike in demand is due to the progression in tourism trends, demographic growth, besides a low supply and room provisions across the continent. Nearly $4 billion U.S. is projected to be invested in the hotel industry through 2018. Overall regional growth shows geographic diversity, with Côte d'Ivoire, Tanzania, and Senegal registering the most progress between 2016 through 2018. Long-term investor interest is also growing in cities like Kampala and Accra, while falling just a tad in Lagos, Maputo, and Kinshasa. From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, New York, I'm Jill Malandrino for Africa 54.
Well, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize Friday for his efforts in securing the end of a more than 5-decade-old conflict with Marxist rebels. Santos and Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia leader Rodrigo Landano, who is also known as Timoleon Jimenez, or Timochenko, signed a historic peace accord last month to end Latin America's longest-running conflict. However, the treaty was later rejected by a majority of voters in a referendum. Despite its rejection, Santos has promised to revive the peace plan, which many Colombians saw as too lenient on the FARC rebels. Now, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at Vincent Makori. Coming up, life after Ebola. Nasser Ayub sings his heart out. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
In 1940, a single farmer could feed 19 people. Today, that same farmer can feed more than 150. Technology, a major reason, and the latest technology that might hit the farm is something called the SwagBot. It's a four-legged, four-wheeled vehicle that can do a variety of time-saving tasks. Robotic expert Salah Sukaria at the University of Sydney.
The thing that growers are most interested in are animal welfare and looking at pasture quality or pasture quantity.
The unique feature of the SwagBot is its omnidirectional movement capabilities, powering it over almost any terrain to check fence lines, herd cattle, and move equipment. And on a 5,000-hectare farm, that's a lot of terrain for farmers to cover.
Agriculture has opened up as a potential another area where robotics could be used because there's very low margins in agriculture, so you really need low-cost robotics or low-cost systems there.
The SwagBot could be ready for production in just 3 years. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Welcome back. It's Music Makers Friday, and I'm joined by Music Time host Music in Africa.
Music Time in Africa. It's Friday.
Heather Maxwell. And, she did travel quite a bit to West Africa recently. She is back. And she met quite a number of musicians, including Nasser Ayub in Sierra Leone. Heather, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
You confuse me sometimes, you give me that look, right? So, tell us first about, these particular musicians that you met. I mean, you met quite a number of them, but this particular ones had a focus.
Yeah, the ones that I met when I was there had a focus on, they had written songs about Ebola, most of them. Now, Nasser Ayub is very popular right now in Sierra Leone. He's Sierra Leonean, born and raised, but he's from Palestinian descent, which makes him interesting in that respect. But also he wrote several songs on Ebola, and a couple of them were focused on, after Ebola, on the survivors, trying to right the wrong of a lot of injustices that they're facing today, like they're being ostracized, they can't get jobs, the kids are getting teased or bullied, or they can't even be allowed back to school.
Sad, yeah.
It's very sad.
Because they went through all this trauma, and then after that now it's
more trauma.
Yet more trauma.
And on top of that, a lot of them don't have, if they're children, a lot of them don't have family support because their families were lost.
Yeah.
So they really need help. And Nasser Ayub has done these great songs and videos about that, and it's just beautiful.
So
and the music's great, too.
Let's appreciate one of his numbers. He is actually Sierra Leonean.
Yes.
Although somebody looking at him may not think so.
Yeah.
So let's watch him.
As I'm standing in front of you, I've been a victim too. Lord knows I cried so hard, 'cause the pain wasn't easy true. I never wanted this for me, so stop pointing fingers at me. Oh, if I be no, I fall down, take every precaution. Now way I don't know, I end up on this situation. Please don't point fingers at me. I can be your brother, be your uncle, be your papa. You can be me sister, be me auntie, be me mama. Please don't point fingers at me. This life is too damn hard, but some people want to make it more hard. They call it Ebola, it's the headline all over. Please don't judge me, Please don't point fingers at me, 'cause I'm not a virus, I'm only human. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I live again. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I live again. I'm a survivor. As I look around, all eyes on me. Living get no family. Everybody died through a bone. This sick kid don't really mourn. But I still survive. Every day I thank the Most High. I know better pass you when you will don't die. So Papa, I thank you for the life. Please don't judge me. Please don't point fingers at me. 'Cause I made it. Yes, I made it. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I live again. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I live again. I'm a survivor. From Senegal, Mali to Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Guinea to Liberia. Every day we cry for our lost souls, yeah. Ebola make we lock all we brothers now. We know the evil fish, so we not brothers now.
I have to say, it's such a beautiful song. I mean, the lyrics, the voice, it's just amazing.
Yeah, you like it?
Yeah, I like it. So here, there were songs during Ebola which were helping people, to understand how to avoid it, how to live through it. Now he's talking about after.
Yes.
What shouldn't happen.
Yes.
And how society should take,
Yes.
things after Ebola.
Exactly.
It's amazing. So what did you get to talk to some about, how it has impacted the music, their creativity? Very quick.
How the music has impacted people?
Either way, how the music has impacted people, but how this Ebola has actually impacted their creativity.
That's an interesting question. In Sierra Leone, they said, Jimmy B, another very, very famous musician and filmmaker there, said that it really hurt the music industry in Sierra Leone. But in Liberia, the musicians I spoke with there said the opposite. They said it actually boosted the music industry because people were stuck at home and they just had to watch TV and listen to the radio. So the stars that were on there and even up-and-comings got more attention. But I think truly the difference is that Sierra Leone has had a more robust music industry from the get-go before. And so I think that is the difference. So they actually had a lot to lose, whereas Liberia wasn't quite, as competitive. So they actually kind of gained in that way.
Yeah. Okay, it's good. At least, they have made their contribution, and that is really great to the world and to their countries. Heather, thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Always. And as always, I want to thank Heather for the fantastic Music Maker segment. Anytime this way again, you say to learn more about Heather Maxwell and have you a radio show, visit Facebook and type in the keywords Music Time in Africa, and you can see what time a program can be heard in your area and get more information about some of our featured artists. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Want to look fit and trendy? CrossFit, one of the biggest fitness trends, is trending. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In South Africa, conservationists raise concerns that population growth and climate change are increasing conflicts between humans and animals living in close proximity. In Zimbabwe, Transparency International reports that the country loses over $1 billion annually due to corruption. In Kenya, cosmetic entrepreneurs benefit from the government's tax on foreign cosmetics as demand for affordable, organic, and locally made cosmetics increases. Finally, in Uganda, police are hoping to win over the public with a pop song featuring dancing and singing police officers. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back here with Africa 54. Here's what's trending. CrossFit is one of the biggest fitness trends, with gyms opening at breakneck speed around the world, including the continent. A combination of movements, including cardio, weights, and gymnastics, are switched up each day to keep fitness buffs on their toes. Enthusiasts say that while it's the toughest workout they have ever done, it's also the most fun. But CrossFit might not be for everyone. Critics say the high-intensity workouts can potentially put too much strain on the body. And as with any kind of physical training, experts say it's important to be aware of your limitations, of course. Well, next up, a smartphone screen that can mutate into a tangible dial may sound like science fiction, but scientists in the UK say it could one day be a reality. Streaming videos, music players, and a multitude of apps means we are spending more time than ever with our heads buried in our tablets and phones. On top of the associated aches and pains, this causes such as the so-called text neck. It can distract people while walking, possibly putting them in harm's way. Now, the device the University of Swansea team in the UK envisions will still have all the features of a smartphone, but with tactile controls like buttons and sliders that physically emerge from the screen to help the users spend less time looking down. Well, and in other tech news, the world's first laundry folding robot, or Laundroid, has been unveiled in Japan. Crowds gathered around the stage to watch an exhibitor dump unfolded clothing into Laundroid's button drawer and then open the top shelf unit a minute later to show a neatly folded garment. Laundroid uses image analysis and artificial intelligence to differentiate articles of clothing and folds the garment accordingly. It can also determine who the garment belongs to within a family. Pre-orders begin next year, but for now, the Laundroid will only be sold in Japan. And that is what is trending today. And that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the morning to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words. Here is a word that is often used in stories about military or foreign policy.
Strategy. For days, U.S. officials have talked about expanding airstrikes already happening in Iraq to Syria. It appears, however, that such action may be delayed, with President Obama on Thursday telling reporters he is still developing a strategy to deal with militants of the Islamic State, or ISIL.
A strategy is a plan to reach a major goal. It can relate to a military operation, a foreign policy, or even a business plan.
It takes time to complete. It is not about acting quickly. So the next time you hear the word strategy,
you will know what this news word means.